well, and I had a gig during the week, so the voice is a bit croaky. First of all, was there anyone that I didn't get on my list? Has everyone given me their names, their addresses, their credit card numbers, all the good stuff? Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. We are starting 1 minute early, so if anyone does rock up, I'll be sure to phone them in. And yeah, you know, I am wearing sunglasses. I'm dressing for the weather I want it to be. Okay, I'm genuinely, like, the sun's going to pop out any minute. I'm really manifesting that. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go through some boring health and safety, if that's all right. As you can see from this gorgeous rucksack, compliments please. Oh my god, Jess, that's stunning! Thank you, oh my gosh. So health and safety, I do have first aid training, however, it's kind of minimal, and as you can see, I'm not a very strong person. I've got bingo wings, not muscles. So we're going to be really careful on our feet today. We're going to stick to the paths. There hasn't been any torrential rain when we're hoping for sun, but if there is any grass that you walk on, just be a bit careful. Obviously this is still a cemetery, it is a bit lumpy and bumpy. The other thing I'm going to mention is Scottish word, a shugle. Does everyone know what a shugle is? The Coons will come round here, they give the gravestones a nice wee shugle, that's a shake. They do that to make sure that if there's any kind of lean, gravity's doing its business, they're just going to force it to the ground. So because of that, I'm going to ask you not to lean on any of the mausoleums. This includes sitting on them or traversing the fence to sit on the roofs. I'm looking at you going, one of you will do it. This is because as well, we're trying to maintain, restore and preserve the Glasgow Necropolis with the non-profit that I volunteer for, and you will not be surprised about how many people will actually sit on these things, and I'm going, that's 30 foot, drop into nothing, babe. I'm not picking, look at these arms, I can't pick you up, I can't help. So we're going to be really careful today. If there is any walls or anything that you can sit on, I will make it very clear that yes, you can sit there. I do understand it is all uphill, and not all of us are able to be on our feet for 20 minutes at a time. And as well, sometimes I go up that hill and I'm exhausted by the time I get up it, so I get it, guys. The third thing I'm going to mention is, I'm putting on my best telephone voice here, but I'm going to mention some Scottish words. If you don't hear them and you forget what they mean, just let me know. I'm more than happy to repeat them. The second thing is, I'm flailing the arms everywhere. I get very fast paced with the talking. If at any point you go, Jess, can you just slow it down? I'm not going to be fussed about it. It's just your preference. I'm just trying to tell you all the facts in a record 2 hours, and unfortunately that does mean that I start to get a bit higher paced and faster paced as we go on. I'm not going to take it personally if you go, Jess, just go calm down a bit. I know you've had 3 coffees this morning, but not all of us have. The other thing I'm going to mention is how many people here are from Glasgow versus we're visiting for the first time. Have we got any homebodies? Gorgeous, you absolutely will be picked on as we go round. And so with that, that's all the boring stuff out the way. We're going to go back, we're going to go in a time machine, and I'm going to take you back 850 years. The rumour has it that St Mungo came to these lands and it was barren, it was desolate, and wouldn't you believe our luck, he blessed the lands so that it would be fruitful. Do I believe that? Absolutely not. It's a grand wee tale to tell. However, anywhere that human civilization goes, where there's a river, it's because there's bountiful means to be had. A lovely story though. Around 1157, the settlement that St Mungo had was so fruitful, it was so great that King William went, do you know what, give these guys a boroughship, they deserve it. And from that we were able to have our own laws, regulations, and wouldn't you believe it, the settlement prospered into Glasgow as we know it. 850 years, that seems like an absolute time ago, but that is the year we are celebrating this year. There's an Open Days Glasgow happening in about 2 weeks. I'd encourage anyone and everyone to go on the website. You can go into the Mitchell Library, behind the scenes of the council buildings, and it's all to celebrate that 850 years. So we're going to go back in the time machine and we're going to go forward about 200 years. Now the Glaswegians amongst us, and hopefully the tourists, we've been to a place called Merchant City, hopefully for a nice meal, for some drinks, but we've all been there. It's just the centre of town, isn't it? Why is it called the Merchant City? That's where the merchants used to live. They used to live in the centre of the city, and that's because where all the banks were, the post office, the law offices, and the customs house. They wanted to live somewhere and have their work right next door. Anyone working from home can really glob onto that, can't they? Around about this time, the merchant, well Jess, who are the merchants? They're basically an unelected council, right? They're the richest guys in Glasgow, and they go, well, I'm the richest guy, I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna make the laws. And they literally did that. They made the laws, the regulations, they solved industrial disputes, and they kept the lights on. Quite literally, they paid the lamp boys to light the street lamps. Around about this time, you've got a ton of people coming into Glasgow. And it's not the kind of people that they want to be walking about with. Do you want to be absorbed fully into the tree? Or I don't know what I have in my first aid kit for that. yeah, so they're like, yeah, I don't want to be walking about with all the great unwashed of Glasgow. I don't fancy it. I'd like to take my family away from that and have an exclusive place to dilly-dally while my husband does his job. So they purchased 20 odd acres of this, and it was called Fir Park. F-I-R, not F-U-R. We're going to have some silly questions being answered today. Some of them have been previously questioned, and I absolutely put them in the tour. Any silly questions that you have, are you going, is this a silly question? Ask it, and then I'll just repeat it the next time I have a tour so that nobody else has to. So this was Fir Park, again, F-I-R. There wasn't a bunch of wildebeests in here, it was trees. And that's what it was used for about 100 years. It was for the exclusive and most wealthy people of Glasgow to have a nice dilly-dally around a park and not worry about the great smelly peasants. I think we can all kind of hone in on that, especially Glasgow on a Saturday night. However, we're going to fast forward another 100 years. We're back in the time machine. Around about 1740s, a rascal called the Industrial Revolution happens, and wouldn't you believe it, coal pollution and trees, nae the best of pals. So Fir Park becomes gubbed. As a Scottish word for gone beyond repair, it's ruined. So for about 100 years, it's just a kind of hunk of land. They try plant some other trees on it that might be friendly for the pollution. They call it an arbitrium. That's just a fancy way to say a park with specialised trees. And that's kind of what it is for about 100 years, until the turn of the century, 1800s. We have a man called James Ewing. James Ewing is the Lord Provost. Well, Jess, what's a Lord Provost? It's a mayor. It's a fancy word for a mayor. He's the head of the merchants, and he's one of the richest men in Glasgow. And he goes, right, what are we doing with this Fir Park? It's gubbed. We've got to find some. He's a merchant. This is wasted money. He's got a friend called John Strang. John Strang is a wine merchant, and obviously he's off in Paris tasting wine, calling it a job. And he comes back and he goes, do you know what they're doing over in Paris? They've built something called Père Lachaise, and the wealthiest people in France are looking to get buried there. And James goes, really? Because I've got a hunk of land that could get turned into. Now, we're not just talking about profit here. James Ewing then starts a succession of laws, because again, they're the ones making the laws. It starts a trend, would you believe it, for-profit burial. Now you kind of go, well, yeah, Jess, for-profit burial sounds absolutely fine nowadays. But in 1830s, such a thing didn't exist. The church buried you. All right, well, that's fair enough. Unfortunately, between 1801 and 1901, the Industrial Revolution brought a ton of people into Glasgow. And unfortunately for the merchants, 90% of those were Irish famine escapees, people coming down from the Highland clearances, and just people coming to have a better advantage of life, really take advantage of the fact that Glasgow was the second city of the empire. So I got more great unwashed. And with all these people, this is 1801 to 1901, the population explodes from 45,000 to just shy of 400,000. What absolutely loves a ton of people living together? Diseases. The plague comes to Glasgow 4 times before all this. That's excessive. But we have your greats. You've got your choleras, your rubellas, your typhoids, your TBs. All the great classic diseases come to Glasgow and thrive off the back of all these working class and poor people. I say poor people because these people were living in abject poverty, sometimes 14 people to a 1-bed flat. Now, what's that got to do with the necropolis? Well, a load of these people need buried when the great classic diseases kill them. And with that, the merchants went, I don't really fancy being buried next to these people. The church at the time basically putting a shovel in the ground and going, right, there's nobody in there, on you go. And they went, we need some standardization here, guys, this is out of control. And with that, they went, there's money to be made here, and there's a need. The wealthiest people in Glasgow want to be buried somewhere. They've got so much money, they go, what better way to use it than to show off me being dead? And this is something I want you to remember, because the Victorians, absolute show-offs. So here we are in 2025. I'm gonna take you just a little bit over here, but if I can ask you maybe 6 feet this way. I know it doesn't seem very exciting to just traverse 6 feet, but I promise it'll get better. Now the reason I want you to traverse 6 feet is because if this is 2025, but if this was 1833, none of yous are getting in, right? I'm looking around, none of yous are getting in. And that's because, and I'm gonna give us a shugle. To get into the necropolis in 1833 and beyond, you would have to get the attention of the superintendent who would be in that office. These gates would be closed, and we're not having the riffraff of Glasgow. I'm looking at all of yous. All of yous are riffraff. You're not in your Sunday best. You're not dressed to the nines. You don't have high heels and your best leather shoes from Italy on. You're nae getting in. You could flag the guy, the superintendent, he's going to open this wee gate, take a look at you and go, yes, absolutely, you can come in. You would have to sign the guest book. The guest book has been going since 1833, is currently in the archives. It's a tradition we still have, and I will be absolutely nagging you to sign it on your way out. But Jess, tell us more about this gate. It's absolutely fabulous. We love a bit of black and gold. It's absolutely gorgeous. I'm going to point you towards a couple things. First one is the Phoenix Ironworks. The Phoenix Ironworks was owned by a man called T. Eddington. Look at that, it's like the parting of the sea. T. Eddington and Sons, a family business. They made their money in the Crimean War making cannonballs. And then after the war, T. Eddington Thomas, he went, I'm getting out the war game. I'm going to make ornate fences and gates. And that's what he did, bless him. He also made all of the water pipes in Glasgow. So not only was he underneath making sure that all the piped water was sealed, it wasn't as fancy as the gates, mind you, but this was a really good example of Phoenix Ironworks and the ornate gates and fences. Now, this is only a few left because World War I and World War II kicks about, and wouldn't you believe it, all the steel in Glasgow gets ripped up for the war effort. However, this gate still remains. Now, it used to be gubbed. It used to be an absolute sorry state. And around about the Commonwealth Games, we did a tour, and a Canadian couple related to T. Eddington said, well, you know, how much to get the gates fixed? And we were like, well, we've had the assessment study done. It's going to cost about 12,000. And they went, yeah, all right. Next day, wouldn't you believe it? Check in the mail for 12 grand. So no pressure, guys, to beat that. But the other thing I'm going to mention, we've mentioned St. Mungo. This is the Glasgow coat of arms. Now, anyone from Glasgow want to take a wee stab and guess what all these symbols mean? Just to... What's that?
The bird that never flew, the tree
Yep.
that never grew,
Yep.
the fish that never swam, the bill never rang.
Well done, points to you. You can get extra sweets when we go back. Yeah, just for anyone that didn't hear that. The tree that never grew, the bell that never rang, the fish that never swam, the tree that never grew, and the bird that never flew. Oh, no sweets for me on the way back. Absolutely shocking behaviour for me. The second thing I'm going to point you towards is the Merchant City, the Merchant's House symbol. A merchant city, a merchant clipper ship, sorry. Now, the motto for these guys was returning from whence you came. I kind of hope so, if that's your trade. But we're going to see that again. And anywhere you look in Glasgow that was owned by the Merchant's House, we're going to see these symbols. The best part of these gates is you go, wow, good keeping the riff-raff out. This isn't originally where they were. They were actually down on the bridge, and I'm going to point that out as we go forward. So we're going to take a breath in the city of life, the city of Glasgow, and into the city of the dead. And you know what? I don't even care that you're not in your Sunday best. You're all welcome.